Hey everyone, so today I am going to do a video that I don't know, it was one of those days where instead of going on my schedule, I just had a video that was on my heart. It's going to be a little bit of a story time today, and of course I'm still going to be dropping knowledge that you can use to build wealth, but I figured just to tell why I do what I do, but also my passion behind my why. So I got my handy dandy Coffee Black tea mug. Follow Coffee Black, buy their products. They are on a mission to make coffee black again. So, black owned, all black supply chain. I mean, what they're doing is amazing. So go check them out. The little plug. And this video is not sponsored. Y'all see my subscribers. I ain't got a lot of subscribers yet, so no, this video is not sponsored. But I feel so fancy saying that, like, this is not sponsored. All right, let me get more serious, y'all. So I got my tea because I'm dropping tea today. So yeah, a lot of people, when they see me, especially if they don't really know me from prior years, they may look at me and think, wow, she's so successful, she's inspiring. And I have no issue inspiring people. I have no issue having people, think I've succeeded or I've done things that are successful that they want to do. I have no issue with that. As y'all know, my whole passion is to bring y'all along with me, share the journey. And a part of sharing that journey is being able to tell you where I come from and, how I got here. And so I do have a video, as y'all know, coming out about home ownership and how I bought a house and a duplex and created my Airbnb and all that stuff. And so this morning I was like, wow, everything that I have now is something I truly, truly dreamed of having. And so I'm going to rewind a little bit. And this story is for those who want to succeed, who know that they have these deep dreams and they just need to know that it doesn't matter where you start, you can get there. And so I'm going to tell y'all where I started when it comes to my home ownership journey and, how I was able to get here. As you see from the title of the video, there was a point in my life where I was really, really low and I had nothing. I had no net worth. I had nothing to my name really, except, nothing financial, but fresh out of college, like a few years out of college. And we're trying to figure out our careers, our direction, and we have no money, y'all, for real. We could only afford the necessities, and we qualify for just about every government assistance you can think of. We qualified, right? So that start. But we were happy. We had just enough. Our needs were met. Shopping and buying a bunch of clothes and shoes and vacations and all the things that I think should be able to aspire to have and eventually attain. We didn't have that stuff, and we're still working towards that even today with me owning some things and having a bit more financial stability. Even financial stability, I say that word very cautiously because I'm an entrepreneur, right? And nothing's guaranteed. Whether you're a full-time 9-to-5 worker or an entrepreneur, right? Nothing is guaranteed. And so this really begs the question, and I really just want to ask this question to y'all. Where do y'all find your deepest security? Because I know where I find my security, and that can be a whole nother video. As y'all know, I like to stay on topic. But anyway, even though we were in this place where we were really lowly, I had dreams, deep dreams that I could really see, I could feel. But I knew I had to be patient and dependent on God to get there. Like I knew, even now I know that if I stick with what I'm good at, if I stick with what I'm passionate about, if I keep my integrity, I know I'm going to make it and I know I'm going to fulfill my dreams. So anyway, this day, it was Wednesday, March 3rd. Like any other day, I was getting a little lightheaded. At this time, I had 2 young children and I was 14 weeks pregnant with my 3rd child. And I was sitting in the window and I saw smoke in the window. And so I thought someone was burning wood because the way the area was, it was very rural where we used to live in Pennsylvania. This little small town called Willow Street. And it was crazy. And I looked and I thought someone was just burning wood for their animals or for their house or whatever in their backyard, or just burning trash. Again, it was a rural area. So seeing like smoke coming up was not unusual. However, the smoke started to get thicker and darker. And I noticed it was like right above my window. I don't smell anything. But then I go to the living room where the window is to the front of the house. And I see someone running past screaming like, oh my gosh, it's a fire. And so I just went into survival mode. Like I was like, oh my God. So mind you, I'm 14 weeks pregnant and I grab my 2 children and I run outside and I turn around, and my apartment, like the top of my apartment, so it was 2 levels, I was on the bottom level, and the top level was completely burning, like just burning, and then the house next to it burnt, like from the top. And so it was basically a fire spreading from apartment to apartment, coming over, and it was literally coming down to my apartment right before I ran out. And so I was in shock. I'm like, I just escaped death with my 3 children, 2 out and 1 inside my belly. And I didn't even have time to think or feel. I was just in survival mode. So we ran out. I had my kids. I was safe. I had a cousin at the time who lived in one of the apartment buildings at the end of the street. So we have no shoes. I left everything behind. My laptop, my electronics, my clothes. All I had was me and my 3 children, and I was safe. So I run down the block to my cousin's house and I bang on her door. She's home, thank God, with her young kids. And I'm like, yo, my apartment is on fire. She's like, what? And it's as crazy as it sounds. Like, saying that out my mouth, I was just shocked. I didn't know how to describe it. So I asked her to watch the kids. I ran back outside to run back down the block. And when I turn around, I'm just seeing everything in flames. And I was just like, wow. Like, just the mere shock of everything was like crazy. And so long story short, everyone got out of the apartment. It was a windy day too. This is in March up north. So it's cold, it's windy, it's not yet snowing anymore, but it's still not spring. So it's in early March. Yeah, actually it'll be, I just realized we're coming up on the, wow, 5th year anniversary of that happening. I don't even want to say the word anniversary because it sounds weird, like it's celebratory, when I guess where I am now is celebratory. But anyway, so yeah, actually it'll be 5 years next week when that happened. So it's crazy that maybe that's why this video was on my heart, because I needed to reflect on where I came from and why I'm here. And so yeah, we to make a long story short, we lost everything. We actually had renter's insurance, but we switched bank accounts. And at this time, again, we're new, we're figuring things out. I don't know much about wealth yet. And basically our renter's insurance policy had lapsed, and I didn't know that. So to rent at this apartment, you need to have renter's insurance, and you need to show that you have renter's insurance. So I know I had it. But when I called, they told me my policy lapsed. And I'm like, how, when? They were like, back in December, we sent you mail. And I'm like, there's no way. It's a lot going on. I'm like a few years into my new business. And I'm like, when did y'all send the mail? So I'm pissed, I'm angry. So we didn't have any money, we didn't have any backup plan. It was insane. So that first night, my cousin got us a hotel around the corner. So we stayed in a hotel just to process, and we all went to sleep. We had 2 double beds. We held our kids and we just laid there, and it was just like, I don't think it really hit us until the next morning when we woke up and was like, we don't have anywhere to go. So the next day they told everyone to come to the community center if you lost your apartment in the fire. They had like Red Cross, first aid, and all these different services. And so we ended up going down, we went to the community center. There was mothers, there was parent fathers, there was children, there was cousins, there was just all these people. They were like first aid people, seeing if you need help. So the Red Cross gave out these cards. I think it was like $500 to $800. I don't remember the exact number, but it was enough for us to get an Airbnb for a week. And that's actually when my dream to have an Airbnb started, because I stayed at this Airbnb that was really nice. The lady was really nice, and she knew that we were one of the people that came from the house fire, because it was all over the news. So people knew that we were about to be destroyed, but she ended up finding out that we were one of the people. So if you actually go to my Airbnb now, you'll see her review of saying these family just had a house fire. They were amazing. I wish them well. So anyway, it's like an online paper trail of how this happened. So we ended up not having anything. We were just trying to figure stuff out. My parents would like come to our house, but they lived an hour away. And our advice was, from our therapist, was don't take your kids out of their normal routine. So keep them in school, like try your best to keep up with whatever is normal so they don't feel too discombobulated, because that was a very traumatic event. So we decided to stay locally in an Airbnb, and then eventually the money on the Red Cross card ran out. So we had to leave the Airbnb. And at this time, we're just like trying to figure out what to do. We're nervous, you know, again, I'm pregnant and I'm like, my hormones are starting to pick up. It was just crazy. And so a friend ended up reaching out. At the time, I was part of a business accelerator program, and the person who ran that program reached out to my co-founder and was like, hey, are they still looking for a place? And she was like, yeah, they're actually still looking for a place. And then he offered up his guest suite to my whole family free of charge. Kate, love you, Kate. I hope you're doing well. They opened up their home to us, and we stayed there for about a month and a half, maybe like 6 to 8 weeks, trying to figure stuff out. And we were looking for housing, and we kept experiencing so much housing discrimination. This was another thing that fueled me. Like, you know, one day I'm gonna own a house, one day I'm gonna be a landlord, one day I'm gonna have an Airbnb. Like, in the midst of my lowest point in life, I just remember saying, like, I'm gonna be different than the people who we experience, because we would apply to apartments, we would have the proof of money, and they would find out we would have kids, or when we would meet them, they would find out we were Black, and they would look at us funny. Again, this is Lancaster for you, so if you know anything about Lancaster, you know what I'm talking about, which is why we left there. But yeah, it was crazy. We just kept experiencing like rejection after rejection. I'm like, wow, like what are they rejecting us for? And it's like, it's not New York where you need like 6 times the rent to, like, you know, that New York is a whole different story. But this is like little old Lancaster, like central Pennsylvania. Like, why are rejecting our applications? And so that went on for weeks, and we were getting really discouraged. I experienced a lot of anxiety and depression. At this point, I'm now like 24 weeks pregnant, you know, and money is running out. So we end up having to do a GoFundMe. Another thing that I said, one day I'm going to have life insurance, or like homeowners insurance, like all the insurances, because now I understood how important that was. But we didn't have that, and I had to accept it. That was a hard pill to swallow. At the same time, we were waiting for our tax refund to come in, and that got taken by the IRS because of some student loan stuff that we didn't know was back paid. Y'all, I remember just laying on the carpet. I was like 25 weeks pregnant, no money. We didn't have nowhere to go. We were like essentially homeless. Like, in my mind, I couldn't even wrap my mind around the fact that like we're literally homeless. Like, we don't have nowhere to go. And the place that we were staying at, they had some people that were going to be coming in because they were going to be going to a different country. And so they didn't expect for us to still be there for 2 months later. So they were like, we already have other people coming in because we're flying out of country for the next few months. And so we ended up going to this other apartment. And this was like, oh, the worst. So we got an acceptance from someone, and they ended up being a slumlord. There was rats in the apartment, roaches, like, y'all. I was floored because this person knew moving into their place was the 4th place we went into. They charged us $1,000 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment in Lancaster. At the time, that was really, like, it wasn't outrageous, but it wasn't cheap. And it was an old apartment, didn't even have a real lock on the front door. Like, it was an awful setup, but we felt like we had nowhere to go. So we prayed. We were like, you know what? We are about to be on the streets. And at the time, we couldn't go to a shelter because they don't allow men and women and children to be in most shelters. So we couldn't get help with the 411 services because I wasn't a single mom. It was just, y'all. When I say I felt low, I was like, this is ultimately the lowest low I've ever felt. And I remember someone said to me one day, the best thing about being at your lowest is that you can only go up from there. And I never forgot that. So when I feel really low, I know elevation is coming. So that's another key thing to remember, is if you feel like you're low, you feel like you want to give up, you can only go up from here. So get your head on straight and focus, and remember that you are here for a purpose. You are here for a reason. Don't ever for a second think that you are not here for a reason. Even if you feel that way, I know the feeling where you're just like, what's the point of all this? But don't give into it. Try to have things in place to surpass that, because it will get better. You have to know that. Because why? Nothing lasts forever. Nothing lasts forever. So if you are watching this video and you are at your lowest point in life, it will get better. Because when you're low, it can only go up, and nothing lasts forever. So it will change. And so that's really what kept me going during that time. But long story short, we had to move from that place because he really was a slumlord. Like, he was awful. To this day, I don't speak to him. I don't speak of him. When people talk about him, I don't even mention his name. I act like he doesn't exist, because I know if I say something, it's going to be negative. And if you have nothing nice to say, just don't say anything. I live by that now. So I was like, I just act like the person doesn't exist. So we ended up applying to another apartment. Long story short, the apartment where the fire happened, they were giving priority to anyone who had a fire. They were like shortlisting them if they had other apartments open up. So someone from across the street where the fire happened, they ended up moving, and we got first dibs on their apartment. So we went back to the place, and it was like brand new apartments. They just built them a year before the fire happened. So they were brand new luxury apartments. And so we ended up moving back there. And from that moment on, I was like, yeah, it's time to level up. Like, cause I knew that was the lowest low. And I was like, if this ever happened again, I never ever want to experience this sort of like trauma where I can't help myself, my family, like we're stuck and we're trying to figure stuff out. So that was in 2017, and 3 years later, I was able to buy my first house. So that's gonna be part 2, so stay tuned for that. So that goes to show you that you can really start from anywhere. Part 2 of this video is gonna be what I did in that 2.5 year period to buy a house. I'm gonna talk about what I did in that 2-year period, and when I bought the house. We're gonna get into all that. I'm gonna summarize now and say I focused, I saved up, I got a job that paid well, and I focused on my skill sets. I didn't spend any money. I saved, I built my credit. For 2 years straight, I just was in the house grinding. And I'll make a whole separate video about how to prepare to buy a house.